Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Oh, I hear that the stream is not the stream, but the multi-bot, or what is it called? Our bot is down. The restream bot is down. Let me check that. That is not good because it's going to make it difficult for me to see what everybody is writing. So that's not a good feeling at all. Let me check to see how these messagings are going. Looks like I'm going to have to try to monitor two different ways of doing this thing. So bear with me as I try to set up another monitor. Whoa. Set up another monitor window here. So yeah, I don't see the restreams coming over. I see the restream is coming over from Twitch, but I don't see it from either YouTube or Facebook. That's not good. That's where we get most of our chat from. So I'm going to have to kind of monitor those manually. Let's see if there's any thing that I can do about that. Bear with me 1 second. I'm searching to see if there's anything I can do about the messaging, why it's not working, etc. I don't have a lot of control over that. So just let me just say that off the bat. I don't get to control that. That is done by Restream, and they're the ones who are responsible for keeping the bots up. And it seems like the bot is working just for one unit at this time. So sorry about that, folks. I cannot do anything about that. So I'll try to monitor the stream. And what I could say is it would be good if everybody could maybe move over to YouTube, and I will monitor. It's easier for me to monitor the stream on YouTube. Just saying, it's easier to monitor the stream at YouTube. Anyway, folks, we have a great program for you today, and let me put what the program is going to be up on the screen. We're going to be talking today about it's our economy, not the billionaires. Choice, democracy or billionaire, and Pelumi Adeleke for HCAD3. That's a local election, but what can I say? It is interesting that this sort of election applies everywhere else. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome aboard AVQ, which is, I can see in our main chat because, again, he's working with us in Twitch. Let me jump over to Facebook and see. Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. We also have in the house. It's on hard. The screen. It's harder. We're going to be talking now that I don't have the multi-stream, folks. So bear with me. Eric Hayes is in the house from Atascocita, Kingwood. We also have in the house, let's see, Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. We also have May Wood from Long Beach, California. Lee Grant from Montgomery County. And let me keep going up. Yvette Avery Herod from, where again? From Atlanta, Georgia. We have E2247, who's on Twitch. He's from everywhere. Para ver quién más está. I think I got Lee Grant in Montgomery County. Who else is in the house with us? Let me get over now to YouTube. See if anybody else in YouTube. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain is in YouTube right now, as well as AVQ. Madre mia, it's going to be difficult following all of this at the same time that I try to do everything else. But hey, what can I say? I'll do what I have to do to get it going, folks. I'll do what I have to do to get it going. Anyway, got a great program for you today. What is the program? There is a program. We're going to talk to Dr. Manuel Pastor. He's exposing the realities about billionaires, our economy, and a lot more. You know, he wrote an article a few weeks ago, and let me see if I can get that article on the screen for you, because when he wrote that article, I don't know if you guys remember, but we had interviewed Dr. Pastor before from USC, University of Southern California. We had interviewed him before on many other subjects, but this one was dear to me because a lot of folks have been getting on our case for, they've been telling us that billionaires are needed, etc. And I've been trying to point out that billionaires are really a clear and present danger. Whether you want to accept it or not, billionaires are not what you think they are. They don't do much. They don't create absolutely anything. And some people get upset that we take such an absolute stance on it. They get upset because when I make that stance, I am not, how should I say this? I am not just trying to go for hyperbole at all. I am actually speaking from a calculated statement of fact when you take a look at what they produce. And anyway, Dr. Pastor, he wrote this article titled, Elon Musk Shows Us Why Individuals Can't Save the World. And I think that's an article that I put out yesterday when I gave my monologue that I guess some people objected to. And then so I went directly to the source, which is a guy who wrote the article. And, Manuel Pastor is a recognized scholar on these issues. And when when you have that sort of a backing, you want to make sure to use it. So Manuel Pastor, this guy is a distinguished professor of sociology and American studies at the University of California. And he holds a PhD. So I want you guys, PhD in these subjects. I want you guys to listen to the interview. I think we all can learn a lot from what he has to say, and then we will take it on the other side. And I hope that at some time the chat starts to work as it should. But while I'm playing this, I'll go do a little bit of investigation to see if I can find out anything. So here is. Oh, wait a minute. I don't even have Dr. Pastor queued up yet. Pero qué pendejada. Let me go ahead and get Dr. Pastor and Pelumi Adeleke queued up, and then we can get started. All right, there she is queued up. And there is El Señor Pastor right now. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Run. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Today we have the honor once again to have Dr. Manuel Pastor. Dr. Manuel Pastor is a distinguished professor of sociology and American studies and ethnicity at the University of Southern California. He currently directs the Equity Research Institute at USC. Pastor holds an economics PhD from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and is the inaugural holder of the Turpingian Chair in Civil Society and Social Change at USC. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Professor.
Siempre un placer estar contigo.
Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí también, hermano. Anyway, look, you, one of the reasons I contacted you is you wrote a piece in Common Dreams, and I imagine you have it syndicated in many other places, but that's where I found it. And it was titled, Elon Musk Shows Us Why Individuals Can't Save the World. And I made that the topic of one of my shows at KPFT 90.1 FM Houston, because in that article, you nailed it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the article and why you thought at this time it was necessary to write?
Well, I guess one thing is that Elon Musk is trying to get all that money now from his board, but that wasn't the reason for the article. The reason is that I think that there's a story about Musk and others that's a very individualistic story about swashbuckling, adventuristic capitalists sort of marching through an Ayn Rand novel, inventing new industries, and, being able to essentially capture all the benefits from that and be deserving of that. But I think it's really important to realize that Elon Musk has actually benefited significantly from public largesse. His company, SpaceX, relies on federal contracts for those rockets. And Tesla, for its first 12 years, the only reason it was able to survive was because of air credits having to do with companies that couldn't meet lower emission standards. It instead paid Tesla to meet government requirements for them. And the reason why their electric vehicles are selling so well is because there's a public mandate for us to deal with climate. So I think the kind of thing I'm trying to inject into the conversation is to recognize how it is that the public actually helps to craft these markets. And it's individuals like Elon Musk who are not going to save us.
Professor, you said something that I think a lot of people don't understand. There was a false, people look at, rugged individualism and capitalism, and the best product survives and the market dictates what the products are, etc. And what you've just said, I don't think, you kind of just said it in passing that I think people need to understand. Because of government regulation, the companies that make cars that pollute the air could buy credits by having their money invested or passed on to Musk and his Tesla to offset the dirt that they're throwing out. Yeah. People don't get it. In other words, they created a manufactured demand for him to make a huge profit based on the law, correct?
Yes, that's the way that it played out. And I think there's this kind of sense, there's this story that what's going on is that when we look at an economy that's growing, that the reason it's growing is because of these private entrepreneurs. And I do not want to deny the fact that Musk has been brilliant at times. But it's important to realize he got kicked out of his first company, PayPal, for mismanagement and wound up using those funds to get into other adventures. The other private company that he's really bought into, Twitter, he's pretty much run into the ground. So I don't know how brilliant that is compared to the two companies, SpaceX and Tesla, that were created as a result of public policy and public will. And you're right, the way that he made money initially for Tesla was that companies that were producing gas guzzlers said, well, we want to keep producing them, and we cannot meet the emissions standards that the federal government has for us. So instead, what we're going to do is pay for Musk to make electric vehicles, and he won't make a profit on them. But the reason that they're paying for it is because of federal policy. The bigger point is that the story we tell ourselves that the economy is the result of just individual initiative and companies, it's actually a result of public policy and private initiative. This was driven home to me the other day. I was in a meeting, and it was about a bunch of companies that are interested in investing in the green economy space, electric vehicles, electric chargers, everything having to do with the green economy. And what they said, the company owners, was they were celebrating the Inflation Reduction Act, the bill that was put in place by Biden, which is giving us billions and millions of dollars in incentives to go green. They were saying it's really great that the government did that. Now the government should get out of it. And it's a stark contradiction between saying this government created the market, now we want them to get out of the way. No regulations, no wage standards, no community benefits, because we want to just jump into the market that they created. That's a contradiction. And what we need to do is to stop telling ourselves this story about the swashbuckling entrepreneur, to tell ourselves a more realistic story about how we need to combine public policy, public investments with private initiative and markets to yield an outcome that's beneficial for all of us.
I don't think I could have said it any better. And the thing about it, however, is that the people that are promoting the message, it's almost like a cabal of all the corporatists that promote that message. And it doesn't matter what type of, it seems like it doesn't matter what type of corporations you're formed, whether it's in the medical industry, the auto industry, the energy industry, they all would like to come to the belief that somehow they're omnipotent and they created the space, when the reality is, from the drug companies to the manufacturers of appendages, etc., they all, most of the times, the genesis of said innovation came from your tax dollar and my tax dollar. You say?
I have an iPhone.
Right.
When you think about the iPhone, what often gets celebrated is the genius of Steve Jobs and Apple. And let's give them some credit. Half of the patents in this iPhone actually come from chips and silicon and things that were created as a result of federal investments in research and development. All the profits go to Apple. What about some of the returns to those of us who made the investments to make this happen? So it's a very simple message about how do we strike a balance. The problem, Egberto, is that what's gone on is that we've been brainwashed in a very particular way to think that it's all private initiative and it's all the market. We wrote a book that came out a couple of years ago. One of the points of the book, which I think is really crucial in this conversation.
Give us the name of your book. Give us the name of your book, please.
The name of the book is Solidarity Economics, Why Mutuality and Movements Matter. And there is a website, solidarityeconomics.org, where you can download for free a copy of the book. That's solidarity with your readers. We also have on that website a comic book version in English and in Spanish. So you can give it to your kids, give it to people who don't read books, etc. But one of the central messages of the book is that we need to stop talking about the economy and always talk about our economy. When we talk about the economy, it makes it sound like a set of rules out there given by God, nature, or the market.
Oh, yes.
We simply cannot change them. But it's our economy. We made these rules about what kind of private property we're going to protect, how much we're going to value the environment, what the wage standards are going to be, how many community benefits we expect. When we say our economy, we see all of us in it as creators and as benefactors and as beneficiaries of this economy.
It's amazing. You mentioned your book. I have a couple of them that I did. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom, and How to Make America Utopia, take away the economy from those who rigged it. And one of the essential things is similar to what you're saying, and that is we have a tendency to believe that the economy is divine. The economy has never been divine. It has always been man-created, and this time I'm even including gender. It's a man-created economy that actually afforded rights to some, and that some is just a very few, and the rest, for all practical purposes, no matter how much you want to think you have, some level of what I always call antiseptic slavery. I mean, as a professor, you'll tell me, Egberto, don't say that, but I call employment in the current state antiseptic slavery. But my friend, I don't think there are many people out there that are expressing the wordiology that you're putting out there. There are several other professors I try to work with that are clean cut in the way that they express this, and I can't express to you how important that is, especially in these times. But what we have to have, in my humble opinion, is your word, your books, your manuscripts, your speeches has to be platformed in such a manner that it really gets out there as wide as possible. So your thoughts on that, and what recommendations do you have of how the hell do we really get all of this done?
Well, I think if you really want to change, and I'm sure this is the topic of your books, particularly given those titles, if you really want to change our current economic arrangements, it's clear that we need power. We need laborers to have more power, workers and unions. We need communities to have more power. We need our planet to be respected and have more power in the conversation. So we strike a better balance. Now, one of the things that I think is part of power is, of course, the power of arm wrestling, power of politics. So I think that one of the things that the power of language is important about is, again, when we say our economy instead of the economy, it's a big shift. When we make the point that addressing inequity is actually good for prosperity, it's not just a question of justice, fairness, or being a liberal do-gooder, but that the level of over-incarceration we've got in the United States is tossing away talent. You know that a broken immigration system, or one that does not let people who want to work in at our borders to fill the jobs in a booming economy, it's actually going to cost us output. You know that underinvestment in the schools where our Black and brown youngsters go, particularly low-income kids, if we don't invest in those schools, we're shortchanging our productivity for the future. So one of the things that we who are progressives need to be doing is to really think about language and to think about how it is we can make the argument that equity is actually good for prosperity for most of us. And how do we shift the language? For example, there's a big debate about artificial intelligence. And what I like to say is there's nothing artificial or intelligent about it. Really, what artificial intelligence is theft. It's large language models scraping the internet, taking all the knowledge of the commons, and then trying to privatize that to sell it back to you without a return to you for whatever you've contributed to that commons. By the way, this is a lot like the moment of the foundation of capitalism in England, when the commons, the lands where everybody would graze their sheep, was actually taken over by landlords and turned into their own private land to be able to graze large herds and take that wool from the sheep and feed it into factories building clothing. And that was kind of the beginning of capitalism. We're seeing the emergence of another kind of new capitalism now by enclosing the commons of human knowledge and trying to privatize it for private gain. So we need to have a different language.
Oh my God, that was like manna from heaven, brother. That was like manna from heaven. I am going to close it there. Dr. Manuel Pastor, I think that last statement on AI is the statement that needs to go around the world. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Un placer.
Muchas gracias, hermano.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely, folks. Join us. A lot of ways to join us and make sure that we can continue doing what we're doing. Anyway, folks, it is important. It is very, very important that we understand what Dr. Pastor had to say. And for those, and I want to say this. It's hard. Dr. Pastor made a statement of fact with respect to the commons. The commons mean the things that belong to us all, the things that no one should own. That's the commons. Our basic knowledge that's out there in the internet. All of you who produce something, all of you who write articles in, whether it's on your own blog, whether it's you made a comment to an article in a newspaper, all this stuff that you're putting out there on the internet, you are teaching some utility in AI. What our common set is. Again, it doesn't belong to Elon Musk. It doesn't belong to anybody who is writing these programs to suck all this data in and then resell it to us. So you can say, well, they're charging for the aggregation of said data. Okay, that may be true. But where is the recompense for those who created the data for said aggregation? They don't want to pay taxes so that it goes into the commons and solve and go into our infrastructure or education, etc. But they want to use what we all created. That is the definition of how capitalism said the efficient allocation of resources. What it really means is the allocation of resources for the elite, for those who control capital. The same applies to oil, right? Think about this. The supreme being or the reactions or nature, however you want to put it, has thrown material into the ground. We all know how oil is formed over millions of years of compression, heat, and carbonized things. We know that. But it has placed it in there. And then somebody gets a straw and suck it out, sell it to us, and say, you're going to pay us whatever we want for something that's in the ground. We process it, but we're going to take a lot more money than what we did to process it. And by the way, burning that stuff, when we throw all that stuff into the air and it creates a climate issue and it creates healthcare issues, you know what we do? We also create another way to make money off of these things as well. Things that we caused. Now we're going to make some money on making you well. The mindset that denies these realities, the mindset that doesn't try to critically think, again, I repeat, critically think why we must have regulations, why we must have taxes, why we must tax out excesses out of corporations who abuse what they're doing, why we should really have the oil sector in the commons, why we should have the healthcare sector in the commons. It simply makes sense, and it's the only equitable thing, the only fair thing, but it's also the thing that would make us a much more innovative people, but we're not because, again, the plutocracy just wants innovation that they can control at said time. Norman Reynolds is in the house. My brother Normal, how you doing, sir? He says, to my GOP friends, I guess if the Democrats adapted all of Project 25 with its people, you would support it as well? No, actually, then they'll say Project 25 is no good. Michael writes, Egberto, to me, when you talk about the commons, the first thing I think of is the environment and the pollution responsible for 1 in 5 early deaths worldwide. And you should, Michael. You should. Harvard Medical, fossil fuel pollution responsible for 1 in 5 deaths worldwide. Yeah, terrible. Can someone copy paste Eric? 60% of people are struggling to live now, but it was 78% during Trump's time in office. Our economy is better but not good. Forbes Career Builder found that 78% of U.S. workers are living paycheck to paycheck. Look, I mean, the data is out. It's a fact that the economy was not better under Trump, either before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and now after the pandemic, it is better. I mean, it's a fact. But you know what the media says? The media goes ahead and allow the right wing to corrupt the minds of people. It allows malinformation to get out there. And then when the information is inculcated into people's mind, the media then says, it may be true that the numbers say that they are better off, but you know what? They don't feel it. Oh my God. They don't feel it? Look, we have allowed the stupor in this country to materialize even more so than it has. And we got to do something about it. And that's why we have programs like this. That's why we have many programs that we're trying to put together. After speaking to an undocumented worker yesterday, and I have another interview that I did with Dr. Pastor on Latinos, I am actually thinking about for going full-fledged in my Spanish version program, maybe once or twice a week, because we have problems. We have serious, serious problems. Mike Cisak says the economy was better under Trump before the pandemic. It now makes $12K more income per year to afford what people could back during the Trump years. Madre mia, I feel for you. Robert Davenport, thank you so kindly for your support. Robert just gave us a kind super chat, and he says, I wait to be more common than we all support progressive independent media. LOL, politics done right needs progressive support. Thank you, brother Robert Davenport, for your kind super chat on the YouTube channel. I could not do this work without those of you who support this work. I couldn't. I mean, when I gave up my company for this, I knew I was doing the right thing. I reduced expenses to a bone, which isn't, best I could because of that. But still, this kind of work doesn't pay commensurate with the amount. I mean, this kind of what we do here doesn't pay commensurate with the hours and hours and hours that put in there. You see that. You see how much we do. You see that. So thank you, brother Davenport. Carl Cox says, Mike Cisak is wrong again. And let's see what else. Lee Grant says, Norman, some of Project 25 is too extreme, but it does encourage us to move to a meritocratic, colorblind society without DEI, affirmative action, etc. Lee Grant, you know how I know you're a good person? Let me tell you how I know. First of all, not only that you come to our Ask Egberto Anything, we enjoyed you on Saturday. But there's a lot to unpack in that statement that you just gave there. In as much as you have bought into DEI and affirmative action being an issue, we actually know that you believe in the issue of fairness, but you have bought into the belief that DEI and affirmative action somehow is reverse racism, and what you want is color blindness. I want color blindness too, but not in the form that you do. Or that many do. I want color blindness so that when people see me as being a black man, as being a Latino man, as being a Caribbean man, that it doesn't factor into my employment or what I get. And until that time arrives, Brother Grant, that is what DEI, affirmative action, and all these other programs try to mitigate. We can't sit back and wait till the culture changes in the aggregate. We can't sit back and wait because there are people that are going through these things day after day after day after day after day. It's amazing, right? So that's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. Anyway, folks, what else have we got here? Before I go to the next subject, I want you to listen to Pelumi Adeleke. She's from here in Houston, and she's running for the HCAD position. And what I want to do is I want to people to understand that they need to go ahead and vote. So let me go ahead and play Adeleke, and then we'll take it on the other side. Bruce Pollard is in the house. Hi, y'all, he says. Hey, Bruce. How you doing? Are you back in town or are you still out there in Minnesota? Let me know. Anyway, let's go ahead and play Miss Pelumi Adeleke, and then we'll take it on the other side. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. As you know, there are several elections that we had over the last few weeks, and we've been talking about the Harris County. We call it the Harris County Appraisal District, but I think that it's really stands for something else. It's an important election that very few people are talking about, but that we expect people to go vote in. We have somebody special here today who is running for one of the positions on the Harris County Appraisal District Board, and she's going to tell us why she is running, and she has good reasons to do so. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Ms. Adeleke. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, Egberto. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, look, one of the reasons I wanted you on the program is that these are elections that many people don't know about. And it's generally that way because they want to have the people who are in the district, the people who want to have say in the district, that they would have a lot more sway if we have an election that many don't know about. Tell us first a little bit about what HCAD stands for and why you decided to run.
Sure, absolutely. So HCAD was previously Harris County's appraisal district, and a couple of years ago was renamed to Harris Central Appraisal District. And that was because folks were confusing it with Harris County. In any case, what this entity does, this government entity does, is that it oversees our property valuations, which is key, right, to the property taxes that we pay as Harris County residents. So the board oversees the entire operations. The board meets once a month and approves the budget for the district. That is anything that has to do with the appraisers coming to the homes and doing all that work to get your property valuations out, which you get at the beginning of the year. This is a direct link, right, to the property taxes that we pay. And it's also a direct link to how much our city schools, our county schools, our vital, crucial services such as police and firemen and health, it is key to how those are funded with the property taxes, especially the schools. The board itself doesn't do individual valuations, but it does oversee the process, appoints the chief appraisers, and appoints the folks that sit in the property flow test process, the panel board. I'm running because as a homeowner, I've experienced firsthand the grievances that a lot of folks, I'm sure, have also experienced with HCAD. So there is a need for us to improve, and I'm running to make the system more fair and transparent, especially for homeowners and small business owners. I have homes here. I'm a small business owner and business leader. I have a background as a certified public accountant and an MBA from Harvard Business School. And I thought this was an area where I can certainly make a positive difference in our community. And that's why I decided to run.
No, I love that you said that you're deeply committed to addressing the present concerns that have left a lot of residents feeling unheard. That seems to be the central point in not only home ownership and not only taxation, but in other areas. What do you think you can bring that your opponent won't? What is it that gives you the sensibility to say, I know that I'm closer to the people than you are?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm, first of all, a community advocate. I started a community partners program for small businesses to give them mentoring, advocacy, access to capital, a lot of things that small businesses and minority-owned businesses are challenged with in Houston. And as a Democrat, I espouse the values of transparency and fairness. For example, in neighborhoods really close to mine, where we started to see, I'm in West Houston, and parts of East Downtown, folks who are losing their generational homes because of the property burdens of higher property valuations. We have folks who are not educated, and I've heard severally on this campaign about the homestead exemptions. My background creating transparency in public and private entities allow me to be able to provide that education, which is part of the HCAD budget right now, and they've not done a great job of educating folks. There are about 300 to 600 people in the county who do not take advantage of those homestead exemptions. And so they are paying more than their fair share. And then we also see what's going on with our school district being, especially HISD, underfunded. I think people want to get the value that they are paying for, and not be unfairly burdened as homeowners. When some folks are getting breaks, they're able to, the corporations are able to litigate and get settlements, and homeowners are paying more than their fair share. So I believe I have the strong expertise and community dedication And I also espouse the values of democracy, of fairness, of equity, which my opponent does not have. She's aligned more with folks like the MAGA extremists who want to take over the district and defund our schools. And so my values, I believe, are more closely aligned with Harris County residents, and folks should vote for me because I will be their voice on this board.
It is important what you just said. And the reason why is there's this commentary that you would hear many times on the right, and that is starve the beast. In effect, if you starve the beast, which means let's go ahead and take as much away from those who would give you a tax base so that everything is privatized. And you're saying that no, you want things done fairly, not overtaxed, but not untaxed as well. So speak a little bit more about that.
Yes, absolutely. So the board positions that we're running for, there's 3 new elected positions, was included in a bill that we all voted on last fall. Now, the stipulation around these positions came in at the end, and many people, even many legislators, did not know that these 3 positions were included in that bill. It was shepherded by Paul Benningcourt. And their goal, including how the election came to be, the date on which it was set, all but guarantee that it'll be a low, voter turnout, and so that they'll be able to put their folks in there. Dan Patrick, our lieutenant governor, has said they want to get rid of property taxes.
Exactly.
And so you can see the direct line between what they're saying in defunding our schools. We all want to pay lower taxes, sure, but that has an impact on the value of the services we get, the value of our schools. And eventually, if you're thinking about your pocket, if you don't have the crucial services in your neighborhood, in your area, then the eventual value of your home will go down. And so every homeowner, everyone in Harris County should be concerned about this.
What you just showed, Pelumi, and I hope I said your name correctly.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. What you just said is what's known as critical thinking, smart thinking. And I want everybody that's listening to this interview to understand something specific here. You may save money if you follow the Betancourts of the world, or the protégés of Betancourt, which are ultimately the protégés of Abbott and these right-wing legislators. You may save $1 or $2 in taxes, but you will pay the price in the value of your home, orders of magnitude more than the taxes you purportedly saved. So let's be clear here. It matters who you vote for. It matters that you understand what you're voting for. Anyway, anything else you'd like to say, Ms. Adeleke, before we close this interview?
Absolutely. I know and I recognize that many folks are feeling the pinch with the pandemic, with inflation, and want relief. And thankfully, we've gotten some tax relief. I'm committed and dedicated to ensuring that valuations are fair, that common sense, that we understand what it is. You can advocate for yourself better. I'm committed to sharing more information and shedding light on what is happening in there, so that you know how it's impacting you and who you should vote for, and how you can advocate in the town halls. We don't want to pay high taxes, but we'll pay a fair share, not a penny more. And I'm committed to making sure that we continue to have affordable housing here in Houston. So please vote. Early voting has started June 3rd to June 11th. Early voting is already on right now, and the election date is on June 15th. And I'm in place 3, Pelumi Adeleke.
Adeleke, and how can they reach to find out more about you, Ms. Adeleke?
Yes, you can get to my website. It's Pelumi Adeleke. That's Adele with a KE.com. And all the information on there, as well as places you can vote. You can vote on Harris Vote. You can find out on harrisvotes.com where to vote.
Pelumi Adeleke, position 3 on HCAD. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you so much, Egberto. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Anyway, that's who I definitely going to be voting for. And I'm also going to be voting for, what's her name? Rivera, not Rivera. Yeah. She's going to kill me. I interviewed her here last week or the week before, Adeleke, and I'm looking her up right this minute, but I can't find her name. But it's going to come to me. It's going to come to me in a minute. But anyway, folks, I want to touch on another subject, the other subject of the show today. The U.S. must choose between billionaires and our democracy. To limit impact of our wealthiest on our politics, we simply must limit the wealth of our wealthiest. And that is saying the thing correctly, because remember, the wealthiest did not earn the wealth that they have. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I want to start by reading the article and interpreting as I read the article. This was written by Sam Pisigati of inequality.org, and it goes as follows. One person, one vote, the classic essence of democracy. But what if that one person happens to be fabulously rich? Does that one person actually have just one vote? Can we have anything approaching democracy when some among us are sitting on fortunes grander than the rest of us can imagine? Americans have been actively debating questions like these for almost a century and a half, ever since we entered the era of Mark Twain quite artfully tagged the Gilded Ages. We never totally ended the Gilded Epoch, but we came close. By the 1950s, Americans of massive means faced tax rates as high as 91% on their income over $200,000, the equivalent of about $2.4 million today. In those same years, the wealth Americans wealthiest left behind when they entered the great beyond faced an estate tax top rate that could go as high as 77%. Wealthy married couples here in 2024, by contrast, can totally exempt as much as $27.2 million from any federal estate tax. Our wealthiest today have good reason to be high-fiving these wealth-enhancing new tax realities. Top 1% are now grabbing 21% of our nation's income, over double the top 1% income share in 1976. Back in the same 1976, the always helpful World Inequality Database reminds us the 40% of Americans in the nation's statistical middle held just over a third of America's wealth, 33.7%. The top 1%, considerably smaller share that year, 22.6%. Today's story, our richest 1% hold just about 35% of our nation's wealth. Our middle 40%, less than 28%. The wealthiest of our wealthy, a just released report from Americans from Tax Fairness points out, are doing their best to keep those good times for America's rich rolling. Just 50 billionaire families, a new ATF report details, have already injected more than, listen to this, $600 million collectively into the crucial 2024 election, with that number sure to show accelerating growth in the final 6 months of the campaign. Think about that. This is almost $1 billion, $600 million that the wealthy billionaires, 50 billionaires, have injected into our current election. Think about that. That's just throwaway money for them. If you can give away 600 million, 50 of you, that just shows you the amount of money that you have. Stats like these, adds the report, offer further proof that the nation's richest families consider democracy just another commodity they can buy. Any transaction requires, of course, both buyers and sellers. In the buying and selling of our democracy, the sellers sit in Congress, and some have even called the White House home. This spring, one particular former president has been selling aplenty to get back to his former 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue address. In one recent private event, the Washington Post reports Donald Trump asked oil industry executive to raise $1 billion for his campaign and said raising such a sum would be a deal given how much money they would save if we were reelected. Now think about that. This guy was not he is so sure that he will not suffer any repercussions from this, that he doesn't mind saying the bribery out loud. At another event with deep pocket donors held at a New York luxurious hotel, Trump reminded all present that a re-elected Joe Biden would let Trump 2017 tax cuts for the rich expire at the end of 2025. Warned Trump, "You're going to have the biggest tax increase in history. Yeah, after I gave you a big tax cut that I put on the backs of America, I am not going to let those rich people pay it back." That's what he's saying. What can we do to significantly limit how deeply political candidates can feed at the billionaire trough? The Billionaire Family Business, the New Americans for Tax Fairness report advances two core recommendations. The first, we need to reform our current campaign finance landscape. A good place to start would be ending our burgeoning dark money political contribution. Get rid of Citizens United as well. To run our already feeble federal limits on political giving and at the same time keep their donations secret, our contemporary billionaires have over recent years been advancing frightfully huge sums to nonprofits that don't have politics as their primary purpose. These nonprofits have then been moving those dollars to billionaire-friendly candidates without having to publicly reveal the identity of the billionaire behind the contribution. It's a fraud. What they do is they allow these guys to give money to 501c3, C4s, and other entities, and then these entities support other politicians based on educational purposes, based on all these other things. They don't have to reveal their sources of income, and voila, your election is bought. The other thing that they do is something like what former President Trump did with Truth Social, right? You create Truth Social. Truth Social creates nothing. They have no profits, no nothing. And what do? They collect, they are capitalized at several $1 billion. They don't make any money, but they're capitalized at several $1 billion. And then what happens? The billionaire goes ahead and he buys a whole lot of stocks in Truth Social. And Donald Trump, being the owner of Truth Social, keeps most of the stocks. And as he keeps these stocks, what happens? Oh my God. He makes a lot of million. Robert Davenport, again, thank you so kindly. Robert Davenport gave us another support before. What do I call this? I'm losing my mind. Another support for Smart Chat. Folks, love you guys. Keep supporting with the Smart Chat because that is how we get things done here. Thank you, Davenport, for that great support. Again, you the man, as Bridge MCP says. But continue. Let me get through with the article. To end but closing gapping holes like this dark money 2 steps. The New Americans for Tax Fairness study recognizes would only get us so far. The wealth of our richest, just like water, seeks its own level. Cut off channel and that wealth will find another. To limit the impact of our wealthiest on our politics, in other words, we simply must limit the wealth of our wealthiest. We need, as the New American for Tax Fairness paper puts it, more effective taxation of billionaires. And that more effective taxation must include moves to seriously tax the billionaire inheritance that leave economic dynasties with plenty of spare cash to try to influence elections. Without these sorts of moves, the ATF concludes, we'll continue to have no practical limit to how much billionaire families can spend on getting their allies into office. Plutocracy can flourish in that environment. Democracy most definitely cannot. Once you get out of your mind that a billionaire has earned their money, you see, I've gotten that out of my mind. I know from a statement of fact that billionaires have not earned that money. That is money made on all of our backs. Some directly from the work that the engineers and everybody else do for these people. And 2, also, that is earned, or rather that comes from them taking advantage of the commons, as was clearly stated by Dr. Manuel, by Dr. Manuel, who we had here on the show previous. Manuel Why is it that my mind failed me? It's Pastor by Dr. Manuel Pastor. Bruce Fowler said he doesn't make money until he sells it, which he can't buy, but maybe he has a scheme. Oh, the scheme is there, Bruce, is for all of us to see. That the rich guy is going to keep that stock propped up. In other words, when he has to hold it for 6 months. When he holds it for 6 months and he tries to dump it, normally, given that the stock is worth nothing, it should crater. But it won't crater because there'll be somebody else to pick up the other end of the transaction. It's the perfect grift. It's the perfect crime because the stock market in itself is a criminal enterprise that's made legal. I mean, it's a legally criminal enterprise is the way I put it. The stock market is a legal criminal enterprise. We are out of time, but I need to go ahead and say, please support the program. The way you can support the program is by simply going to politicsdoneright.com/support. That has all the different ways in which you can support the program. Alternatively, you can go ahead and get some of our books, politicsdoneright.com/books, politicsdoneright.com/books. But one of the other ways I'd like to ask you guys to do is please go ahead and become a pay. We have over 9,000 followers of our newsletter, subscribers of our newsletter, etc. But we only have 101 subscribers. We need about 1,000 subscribers. If you can decide to become a paid subscriber, it's like saying you're going to get us a coffee a month. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber if you have the wherewithal to do so. I want to thank Robert Davenport for being the king today in supporting Politics Done Right. We really cannot do this without you. I really appreciate your effort in making sure we can do what we do here, Brother Davenport. It is very much appreciated. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what?
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.